So this video is probably going to be pretty short. I got a question in a message about how to explain Asperger syndrome to family and friends. For me, with friends, I don't exactly remember explaining it to them really in detail. It was more of just a passing comment of oh yeah, I was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome. But with them, it really didn't make much of a difference because, they already knew what to expect from my personality, and, I really don't know what they have always thought deep down of me, but I think they know what to expect from me, and having the label of Asperger syndrome probably, only put a label on what they had thought of me, but it didn't really change their perception of me at all. Maybe in some cases it made them more tolerant whenever I would say things or do things. Maybe they would chalk it up to Asperger syndrome, I don't know, but as to how they outwardly treated me after I explained it to them, there really wasn't much difference. But I still think that it's good that I told them about it, just so they know, and just, and I really didn't expect to be treated any differently, but just them having that knowledge that I do have it, I don't see how it hurt in any way. So, if it is a close friend that you have, I would say, if you do have the diagnosis, then tell them and explain to them exactly what it is, because there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is. And, I think I had mentioned in an earlier video about all the media stereotypes and everything out there. So, even though I didn't really explain it in detail to them, I would still recommend explaining it. Just so, they don't have this idea, this preconceived notion of what autism is, because most people think that it's just a hard label. They don't know that it's a spectrum and that it varies from person to person. So, definitely, explain to them if they don't know already. As for family, I was treated a little differently that I noticed. After I was diagnosed, I really didn't get any kind of special sympathy from my parents, but I did notice that they had started using Asperger syndrome kind of as a scapegoat. Whenever they would get mad at me for something, they would still get mad at me. I was hoping that I would get, maybe more sympathy, but that really wasn't the case. Now they just, instead of just yelling at me, they would now yell at me and throw on the label of Asperger syndrome. Like, I know this is your Asperger syndrome, but you still need to stop doing this and this and this. So, and the thing I would contest is that Asperger syndrome is not just this mystical thing that controls what I say and what I do. I am who I am, and I think my mom really has started to confuse just the label of Asperger syndrome with me and who I am. That's not the label causing me to do what I do. That's me doing what I do. I am who I am, and I have no regrets, and, the decisions I make, I make. It's not the Asperger syndrome that's making decisions for me. So, I guess that can be the downside of telling people that you have Asperger syndrome, is that they may be inclined to start personifying Asperger syndrome and start, attributing things that you as an individual, as a person do, they may start attributing that to Asperger syndrome. And that's really not fair. It kind of, belittles me personally, because, I don't like being seen as just some kind of puppet, and the Asperger syndrome is the puppet master. I don't consider myself that way at all. I mean, I went 26 years without a diagnosis, but, I've never felt controlled by any outside force. It's just me. And I think everyone with Asperger syndrome probably feels that way, that they've always been themselves. And, I don't think any kind of label would, take over who you are as a person. So, it really depends on the person that you explain it to, and always make sure that you explain what it is in detail. Don't do what I did. Don't just say I have Asperger syndrome. Bye. Explain to them what it is, and hopefully the more they know about it and the better they're educated about it, the less likely they'll be to start throwing out the label and using the label as an excuse for everything that you do as a person and as an individual. I am not Asperger syndrome. I am a person with Asperger syndrome, but I'm a person first and a person with Asperger syndrome second. So, that's always important to remember.